Today on the What If Brigade, I'm going to be doing a little bit of a follow up to my why you wouldn't want to be transported back in time to age 18 video. And I'm going to cover some of the reasons why you maybe would. What could you do positively in that situation? The other video got a little bit long, so I'm going to separate it into the bad and the good. Here are some things, and this is kind of personal to me, but I think it kind of reflects on some things you can change. I kind of covered in that earlier video. If you were transported back to your 18-year-old self, you would probably want to enroll in a different university than the one you originally went to, and take a different major, and kind of isolate from your family and friends for a little while until you came back with your whole new personality, which is going to be just extremely weird compared to who you were before. So that was in the earlier video. I'll put the link in the description. And though I think that once you successfully navigate your new weirdness, obviously you're going to be probably investing in the stock market and a lot wealthier than you are right now. And though I think there's some more down to earth things that you could do, especially considering that, like I covered in the earlier video, going back in time to your earlier self, you're probably going to destroy your life, either some combination of accidentally or deliberately. So your old life is destroyed, so you might as well be happy. And here are three things that are specific to me, but I think they're things that you can think about in your own life, that are stuff where okay, here's some things that really made me happy, and I waited a really long time to do them for reasons that don't make a whole lot of sense in retrospect. And the very first one that I'm going to go over for me, is I did eventually buy a camping trailer, and I loved it. And my family had pop-up campers growing up, and I usually slept in a tent. My parents were in the pop-up camper. I had three brothers. So usually I wasn't in the pop-up camper. I was usually in a tent. My parents had the pop-up camper, and at the time, I thought it was fine. It was a nice little trailer. You pop a canoe on top. You got all your camping equipment right in a trailer, ready to go. Worked great. Though when I graduated from high school and was in college, and after that, for 18 years, I never really got a camper. The only reason I got a camper was because, we eventually had kids, and we got rained out like 3 times in one summer. Just awful, just tons of water on the ground. And the next year we got a camper, and it had indoor and outdoor kitchens and heated floors, and it was really nice, and all my stuff was right in the camper, always ready to go. Just hook it up, go out to the campsite, plug and play. Especially with kids, especially with young kids, having your own bathroom, your own shower, and having just kind of all the comforts of home right there is great. And you can still tent. You can still tent right next to the camper. The kids can still tent right next to the camper. And then if there's any problems, just retreat to the camper. It's like camping in your backyard. And we used it as a surrogate hotel. We would go to weddings, and we would park in a farm driveway. We'd park in someone that we knew, obviously, but we'd park in a driveway, and we'd go to a wedding, or we'd go to a campground on a wedding, or we used it to go to family reunions and things like that. We used it as our own personal hotel, and I really liked it. And camping isn't for everybody. Campers aren't for everybody, but the point is that I kind of, it should have been obvious in hindsight that this was something that would work really well for my lifestyle. And, this is something my parents used. And I waited a really, really long time to get it. And that waiting in hindsight just did not make sense. I should have got a camper almost immediately, possibly even in college. I was just, I don't know what I was waiting for. That was a big mistake. And I recently sold that camper, and I'm looking for a new one. But now I know I like campers. And kind of this goes to, the next one is a little more practical. It was 9 years before I got a job in an industry that I really liked. And My dad told me to get a job in this industry when I was still in high school. He noted that, a kid that was on my intramural basketball team or whatever had this job. I mean, I barely knew that kid, but my dad pointed out to me that that was a good job. And at the time, I did not think I could do it. I did not think that my math skills were good enough. I did not think that that was the right job for me. I thought it was a terrible fit. And it took me a long time to, uh, to get around that. I avoided math in college. I was a double major, but I tested out of math and then took like the minimum amount. And when I was picking majors in part based on how much math there was. I was scared of math, and eventually, um, I got an opportunity to interview for a financial analyst position, and I really liked it. I really liked it. I really liked the work. I thought it was fun and interesting. And while I still struggle with math, uh, it turns out that a lot of what I did in that job was actually helping other people solve problems, and the way I think about math actually helps a lot in that line of work. And just because I'm not a traditional math student, doesn't necessarily mean that there isn't a whole bunch of problem solving in terms of how the problems relate to the software and the kinds of things that can go wrong and how to figure that out. A lot of that isn't that, the people who can do awesome math problems in their head, that isn't how that isn't how a lot of this stuff works. A lot of times things go wrong. It doesn't calculate perfectly, and you have to figure out why. And It turns out I was very good at that. And I waited 9 years to get into that career, and there really was no reason to wait. I could have started in high school. Apparently, a lot of those companies had tuition reimbursement. I could have saved myself a ton of money on college, and I could have majored in something more appropriate to my career. And even if I'm traveling back in time and using my knowledge of the future to invest in stuff, that still would have been a lot easier in a financial profession. I should have started that in that industry much earlier, and that was really wasn't any reason for me to wait. I did a lot of lifting heavy objects, a lot of hard manual labor for many years, um, and yes, math is hard, but other work is hard too. So I I shouldn't have waited on that. So, and the final one that I want to talk about is housing. And it took me a while, 12 years before I got a house. And it turns out that it was not what I wanted. I got an enormous house. It was basically a 1970s Rambler stuck off the side of a 1900 farmhouse. It had 2 basements, it had 2 driveways, it had a garage, a 2.9 car garage, and a carriage house, double lot. And oh, it was endless work. Just everything was always broken on it. It just thousands, like 5,000 in repairs every year. Just a ton of maintenance. 50, 50 bags of leaves a year. Just there were 14 trees on the property. Just an enormous amount of work and maintenance. And it turns out I don't like having a big house. It's a lot to clean. It's a lot to repair. And like, you say like, oh, 2 basements. Okay, that you're just gonna have more junk. I mean, what are you gonna do with second basement? You're not in there. One of the basements is gonna be better than the other, and you're just gonna be in the good basement, and then the other basement is just a giant cellar. Like it's that's my personal feelings. Some people can obviously love big houses, but now I live in a tiny 3-bedroom apartment, and I like that. I like that better. And since then, I think like the house that I like best is my brother's house, which was way smaller than mine ever was, but his is on 5 acres out in the country. And that's kind of where I fall. I would like a cabin out in the country, or I would like a very convenient apartment close to schools, the doctor, grocery stores, whatever, in the city. But I'd like both. But I do not like an enormous house on a big lot in kind of the suburb area. Like we were close to a park. I liked the park. I liked for the most part I liked my commute, but I just I hated that house. It was just a giant hassle all of the time. And those are some things. And here again, I waited 18 years for the camper. I waited 9 years to get into the industry that I liked best. I waited 22 years before I got into housing that actually suited my wants and needs. And those were all, turns out, needless waiting. Those were all things that I could have done much earlier, and there wasn't really a need to put that off for so long. And I essentially caused myself a lot of heartache by doing that. And I suppose there's a moral to this story in that if you are young, you should probably try out different things to find out, do I like an enormous house? Do I like a small apartment in a convenient location? Do I like having a camper? You can rent those. I mean, yeah, I could have just rented one of these at any time and been like, oh yeah, this is nice. Yeah, this is a good idea. I'll get one of these. And career wise, it's a little harder than that. Obviously, if there's a career that you're scared of in high school, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work out right for you. But yeah, I mean, there are opportunities, and when you are younger, trying out, do you like a small company? Do you like a mid-sized company? Do you like a large company? What kind of industries do you like? And a lot of the things that we think about ourselves when we're in high school and college, and even after that, aren't necessarily correct. We don't know. We think we know ourselves, but until we've been in those situations, different size companies, different industries, it's really hard to say like, oh, I would like this. I think when I was a kid, I thought I wanted to be a pilot. Until I met some pilots and learned that they were never home. They were just always gone every single weekend, all over the earth. Just like, oh, do you like living in strange hotels? Pilot, it's for you. And like it seems really cool, and then once you like break down the job and you're like, all right, it's a really high stressful job, you really got to get it right. And then every Saturday you're gonna spend in Paris, but you can't go out and drink or anything. You just kind of have to go back to your hotel room and then get on the 5 a.m. flight the next morning and fly back. You know, like that's the unglamorous side of being a flight attendant or a pilot or whatever. So this is my now very long addendum to maybe why you would want to be transported back in time when you were 18. So how about you? What's something, especially something simple, something where you know, you waited years and years to do it, and then once you finally did it or got it, and you were like, why did I wait so long to do this? What's something that you just waited way too long to do? And if you could go back and tell your previous self, you would just be like, hey, just get the camper. You'll like it, you know. So this has been the What If Brigade. Have a great day.